Sarah, I couldn't help noticing that you were not there at the mass dismissal and teacher certificate burning ceremony.
Yes, I was sick last Sunday.
Attendance is mandatory for all professional development activities. Do you have a doctor's note?
Yes, my note for last Sunday's absence is on your desk.
Oh yes, I forgot. It seems you were sick last year for the same event. There appears to be a certain correlation.
No, not at all. That was just a coincidence. Was there something you wanted to talk to me about?
As you are aware, you have received an overall performance rating of 7+. That is very good.
Thank you. I work hard.
What I mean to say is that you need to improve your teaching. We need to constantly raise the bar for both student and teacher achievement. It isn't good enough for us merely to fire the bottom 10% of teachers every year. We need to be continually improving our whole system from top to bottom in an endless cycle of school improvement.
I don't get it. How can a rating of very good be not good enough?
The problem is that you have been very good for each of the last 10 evaluations, dating all the way back to September. You are stagnating. As you know, in order for our district to qualify for federal raise from the ACT's funding, we need to demonstrate continuous improvement in all areas. I am going to have to put you on intervention status.
What if I was receiving a perfect rating every year? How would I be able to generate continuous improvement?
Are you saying that improvement is not always possible? It sounds to me like you are looking for excuses.
Well, there's always room for improvement, I suppose.
Yes, and since the best way to improve things is by measuring them constantly, let us now look at how you are measuring up in the 4 quadrants of success.
Okay.
Firstly, you've dropped 1 star in your customer satisfaction ratings at ratemyteacher.com.
But those ratings are not reliable. They just allow the nastiest students to anonymously slander you. If you challenge them to learn or give low marks for mediocre work, you get low ratings and sometimes even death threats.
It sounds like you are defending the status quo, Sarah. Is there a way that you could reconsider this from the person who made the death threats point of view?
I'm going to have to say no on that one.
But you are leaving those kids behind. What can you do to reach out to them? Perhaps you need to differentiate instruction some more, or assess the students in multiple ways that reflect their own unique way of learning.
Yeah, sure. Put me down for some of that.
Great idea, Sarah. I'm glad you thought of it.
Will that be all?
No, it is only the beginning. The Los Angeles Times report card on teachers has listed you as teaching below standard based on value-added assessment data about your students' test averages. Also, you have not closed the gap in the learning of math skills to girls, homosexuals, the obese, and kids with red hair and freckles.
But I teach art, and I don't prejudice my teaching around such things as gender and skin color.
The data indicates you are failing these kids with the bigotry of low expectations. You need to address the specific needs of these learners in order to ensure success.
But all of my kids were above the state median. They averaged 78% on the tests.
Above average is a long way from the state standard of 93.2% for all students. We don't need to see the marks go up all at once. Perhaps you could set a SMART goal.
A SMART goal?
Yes, a SMART goal. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic and timely. Thus, if your students are currently averaging a 78, you can volunteer to improve their grade by a percentage for which you will take responsibility, and we can then hold you accountable.
But how can I promise to deliver an improvement in my students' level of achievement when I don't know who my next students will be, what their abilities are, or how hard they are going to work?
It sounds to me like you are making excuses again. How many grade points can I put you down for?
How about 1?
Mediocrity is not an option, Sarah.
Okay, 2%.
You need to raise the bar by more than 2%.
3?
Our school mission statement is to do whatever it takes to raise production by at least 4% per year.
Okay, I'll try to raise my kids' scores by 4%.
I will record that you have volunteered a 4% increase.
My marking is piling up. Can I leave now?
Other concerns have been raised about your teaching. It seems a lot of your kids have been surfing pornography on their smartphones while you teach.
How can you know this?
They said so on the Character Education Survey.
It's hard for me to see what they are doing on their smartphones.
More excuses. The real question is, how can you address this deficiency in your teaching style? How can you promote greater engagement through the integration of more technology in all of your lessons?
Well, I used to tell the kids to put all their electronic gadgets away, and that helped a lot. But when the school gave every kid a smartphone, it became impossible to keep their attention.
That is called disruptive innovation. Disruptive innovation asks teachers to step outside of their comfort zones. Digital literacy is a key component to educating students for the 21st century. It is measured on the CompuComp International Assessment. Also, it is a national standard as set out by the Alliance of Technology Corporations for 21st Century Learning. A more constructive approach would be to ask yourself, how can I best digitize my curriculum? Would my students be empowered enough to direct their own learning online if my job were cut tomorrow?
Well, I did try to tweet them a lesson on art history, but they were too busy surfing pornography, gambling, and watching people get hurt on YouTube to respond.
Kids don't need history anymore. That's just inert knowledge. They can get all the knowledge they need from a smartphone. If you want to empower the kids, you've got to teach them how to teach themselves. You need to unleash the power of innovation.
Okay, I'll integrate more technology in all my lessons. Is there anything else I must do in order to get off the intervention list?
Yes, now that you mention it. The School Reform Foundation's video analysis of your teaching style reveals that your teaching skills are sub-exemplary.
What do you mean? What did I do wrong?
According to the data, you don't look at the kids as much as the camera when you are giving instructions. That creates a feeling of unease as reported by your students. You need to act at least 12% more natural.
It's hard not to look at the robotic eye as it follows me around the room. It is hard to act natural when you feel as though you are being X-rayed.
It's not about your comfort. It's about constantly raising the children's learning outcomes.
Okay. I guess I could take some pills to help me deal with this.
Excellent idea, Sarah. But we're not finished just yet. Your students' interim assessment marks have come back from the CompuComp Center for Teacher Quality and indicated a 10% drop in your teaching of creativity and imagination skills. How did you address this deficiency in your teacher correction plan? Did you volunteer to take any remedial PD?
Well, I have been busy taking a PhD in art. I should hope that this would help make me a much better art teacher.
How is taking an art degree going to help our school to meet the quotas for targeted results? If we don't meet those, we are going to lose funding from the federal government's Race from the X program.
But all of those interim assessments and tests are not accurate. They're all being done now by impersonal computers.
It sounds to me like you are making excuses, Sarah.
Here's an idea. Why don't you just tell me what to do and then I'll do it?
Oh, Sarah. It doesn't work like that. It needs to come from you. And it's strictly voluntary. Perhaps in your professional learning group you could get some feedback as to what you could do to improve your self-monitoring skills. You've got to do a better job thinking about how to make better decisions about next steps towards your constant improvement.
Oh, you're telling me to focus my PD on raising test scores?
No, of course not. Assigning professional development targeted to raising student performance would be unconscionable. It's something that's got to come from your heart. You've got to believe you're making your own decisions so we can hold you accountable.
So what you are really saying is that I've got to act like all this compulsory volunteering is my own choice.
Nonsense. We are empowering teachers by allowing them to use their professional judgment in setting their own targets and designing their own teacher correction plan.
This is starting to get really Orwellian.
Perhaps, but you are starting to sound like a teacher fundamentalist.
What's that?
Teacher fundamentalists are those who refuse to embrace change. You frequently find them discussing politics in staff rooms, or raising questions about how reform is going to affect their own teaching conditions. Becoming a change agent means adopting the mission of raising the bar of student achievement and closing the gap between the strongest and weakest students. Agents of change believe that these things can, and must, be done for every student, even those who don't do any work or even attend.
But I don't believe we can raise the bar without opening the gap. And every time we close the gap, they raise the bar.
It is starting to sound like you are an unbeliever. All teacher fundamentalists are unbelievers who must be cast out.
But isn't a fundamentalist a person who holds blind faith regardless of the facts? Aren't you asking me to be a fundamentalist by unquestioningly believing? Are you aware of how much you keep contradicting yourself?
No. But I am glad we've had this conversation to review your progress and to clarify your expectations for the future. Have a great term, Sarah.